Hey, good evening, PBC family. I don't have to tell you that we are living in confusing and divisive times. And all of us have opinions about who we think are right and who we think is spreading the fake news, who we think is someone or an organization to listen to and is really getting it right, and who we think is just out to lunch. But one of the potential dangers of a climate like this is that the church can become divided. And this is a danger for the big C church at large, but this is also a danger for the small c local church like PBC as well. Thankfully, this is something that Christians have dealt with before. We've faced this, and there's instruction to guide us. In Romans 14, the Apostle Paul is writing to a divided church in Rome. And in this case, the disagreement is between Jewish Christians and Gentile Christians who are part of that church. And the focus of the disagreement is on what they can and cannot eat, what they can and cannot drink, who they could and could not socialize with. And the ways that you came to answer those questions, your decisions on these determined whether you were a righteous and godly person or not. And what was happening is sides were being taken, relationships were deteriorating, and the church was dividing. So listen to what the Apostle Paul writes to them in Romans chapter 14, verses 1 through 4. Except the one whose faith is weak, without quarreling over disputable matters. One person's faith allows them to eat anything, but another whose faith is weak eats only vegetables. The one who eats everything must not treat with contempt the one who does not. The one who does not eat everything must not judge the one who does, for God has accepted them. Who are you to judge someone else's servant? To their own master servants stand or fall, and they will stand, for the Lord is able to make them stand. And so what we are reading about here and what Paul is speaking into is the first century version of what we're experiencing today. We have this all over the place. We need to wear masks. Wearing a mask infringes on my personal rights. Wearing a mask is harmful to us. You know, we need to get everyone needs to get the COVID vaccine when it comes out. I'm never going to get the COVID vaccine when it comes out. I'll figure it out and make a decision when it comes out. We need to follow the public health orders for worship. We need to meet like we did in the past, and we need to do it right now. So Paul is speaking into a conflict that's heated and divisive. And what is his response? Does Paul write a position paper and say that any faithful Christian needs to agree with him? Does he go on social media and just start proclaiming over and over again his thoughts? Does he say, eat meat, people, come on, or everyone needs to become vegans? No, Paul's response is we need to give grace to each other when there is a difference of opinion. God has accepted all of us who have put our faith in Jesus. So why are we now shutting one another out? Paul does not insist that everyone agrees with him in a matter of dispute or opinion. Now, we need to understand that this is not always the case. Earlier in Romans, Paul insisted on people agreeing with him that we all as Christians need to agree, as he was speaking and writing about the great truths of the gospel when he was talking about sin and justification and God's love and God's grace and his character. There are essential and there are non-essential issues for us as believers. And we need to have unity in the essential. We need to have unity in the areas where there is clarity in the scriptures. And this is the core doctrine of our faith, the core truths that our faith rests on. And in my opinion, our church's statement of faith does a great job of expressing and communicating those essentials that we need to have unity with. But we also need to understand that this also speaks to some social issues. Racism is a sin. Abortion is wrong. There is clarity in the Bible about these issues. But Paul here is giving wisdom and advice to the church in matters of dispute, in matters where the Bible does not speak clearly, and therefore Christians come to different convictions and conclusions on this. Matters where we have to be taking different principles and trying to apply them and go, well, how much weight do I give to this one and that one? And what this means is we aren't always going to agree. But this doesn't mean that that it's wrong for us to engage in conversation about these. We can and should debate and seek to sift out together what are the good ideas and what are the bad ones. But we need to have humility, and we need to be open to the reality that maybe we don't see things clearly and correctly. Maybe someone else will bring an insight, and together maybe we'll come to a greater understanding. This is how human beings find truth. But we need to respect each other's opinions. We need to be able to walk hand in hand even when we don't see eye to eye. And if we are able to do that, maybe, just maybe, if the church can get this right, if the church can learn and have a conversation with one another about areas where we don't agree, and do that with grace and do that with civility, maybe others will take notice and see that we're different in a good way. And maybe God will use this not to convince someone to believe what you think about COVID or masks or vaccine or politics, but maybe God will use that to help someone put their faith in Jesus, which is the high calling that God has for us to be about, making disciples of all nations. I encourage you to stay strong and stay faithful, PBC. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you on Sunday.